Hey everyone, thanks for continuing with us on this journey of standing on the promises, securing our next century. You've heard over the past 2 weeks about the importance of following and of trusting the promises of God in order to secure our future. Following and trust are our first order of importance because it gets us walking and gets us knowing Jesus. In some faith communities, being a disciple is about assenting to doctrinal statements and having a proper understanding of Jesus, knowing the right words to say, the things to do. These are all certainly important. It's one of the reasons we're in the middle of confirmation right now, a huge time in the life of our church and all of those 8th graders who go through confirmation each and every spring. However, in our church, the first steps of deep Christian discipleship isn't making sure that you can cross your T's and dot your I's of your theology. It's establishing a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. You don't have to have it all figured out or all your questions asked or answered to follow and trust Jesus. You just have to be willing to make those first steps of commitment. Eventually, as we all walk alongside Jesus, we begin to understand our dependency on Jesus. So much of what we depend on for validation or security, we begin to see through how superficial all of that other stuff is. That's what Jesus is talking about in Luke in our scripture reading for this week. Imagine you're walking alongside Jesus, following him, hearing his lessons, seeing his miracles and how he engages people and how they respond to him. You begin to truly trust in what he has to say, that his way leads to something more fulfilling and essential than the ways of the world. And as you're walking with Jesus, you're saying all the stressors and pressures in your life, the things that keep you up at night and that dominate your mental and emotional well-being, and you're remembering them. You're on the ever-turning wheel of the rat race, wondering if you can actually get off and follow Jesus. And you're thinking of this, and Jesus looks at you with compassion in his eyes, and he says, "Child, you can stop chasing the carrot. Stop focusing on food or drink. You don't always have to worry." You know, that's the way of the world, the path you've been following, Jesus says. That other path you've trusted in the past. Instead, put me first, put my kingdom first, and I promise it'll all be worth it. What's that look like? Looks like a leap of faith. It looks like being intentional and committed to prioritizing Jesus before all other things. That's what Jesus means when he says, sell your possessions and give to God. Don't buy stylish but superficial stuff that'll wear out and let you down, but know that this thing called discipleship, this promise of faith, it's something you can stand on forever. Sometimes, though, we become afraid of prioritizing God. God, I'm already stretched thin. If I had more, I'd give it. I can't do without X, Y, or Z. In some ways, that's certainly true. You have to care for yourself, your family, your community. If you don't pay your mortgage or rent, well, that's not really an option. But there are other areas where some reprioritization wouldn't kill us. Notice Jesus uses a purse as an example, one that's flimsy, fashiony, that'll wear down and let us down. Those are the areas where we can start with reprioritization. I remember learning about prioritizing God and listening to a sermon where the pastor put 10 apples before us. Each apple represents a percent of our income and our priorities. You use 9 of those apples to clothe yourself. Use them for food and shelter. Even some of them can be for fun and savings and for helping friends or your family or other people. But the 10th apple, that's for God. It's to give priority to God so that God can use it for the kingdom. Can we give that 1 apple to God? Sometimes it's tough. Sometimes 9 apples with all the personal and the societal pressures, 9 apples can no longer feed all the hungers of our desires. And so we take that 10th apple away from God, that priority we set aside for God, and we start whittling it away. We know we could take from other areas of our life, other apples, and reassess and reapply, but that extra apple, that apple for God, it's just sitting there. And so at first we just take a little bit from God's apple. You know, doesn't God get it? Then we think, I need another trip. I have a medical emergency fund, but I need a new TV. I could put some more into retirement. And then we can't just take away from our other priorities when eventually, here God, here's your apple, or well, what's left of it. Eventually, as the things in our lives consume us, it consumes what we have to give to God, and God just gets our leftovers. Jesus deserves more than just our leftovers. The promise God has for us is meant to not be an afterthought, but our first priority. When we are able to prioritize God, not only does God get our best, but we experience a long-lasting, profound contentment and fulfillment, knowing that the promise we get out of prioritizing, knowing that promise, it doesn't rust, cannot be taken away from us, cannot be destroyed by wear or tear or moths or wind or rain. No, when we prioritize God, our hearts, our souls, our salvation, they're able to withstand anything because they're with Jesus now, and we can experience heaven now. Prioritizing your faith in Jesus now secures our future, secures the next century.